Welcome to American Dreams, Keys to Success, with your host, Alan Olsen.
Welcome back. We're here today with Jerry McCarthy. He is the co-founder of Ventureloop, a worldwide leader in job posting focused on the venture-backed companies. Welcome to today's show.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
So, Jeremy, can you give me some background of your career and education?
Sure. So I went to Santa Clara University, was an accounting major, and worked with what's now PricewaterhouseCoopers in the audit department. Back then it was still Coopers and Lybrand. And I focused on their venture capital and startup practice. So I had a number of the top venture firms as clients and got to work with some interesting startup companies and see them grow very rapidly. Eventually, I decided to go into business with a friend who had a retirement plan administration company. Learned that it's not always the best idea to go into business with friends, and then found an opportunity through networking in that business to get into recruiting. Eventually, from my executive search career, came up with the idea for Ventureloop, and hooked up with one of my venture capital clients that I had worked with in my public accounting days, and was able to get a first test case done. And what that product or service does is it actually hosts a career page on the website of a venture firm to help promote all the jobs at the companies they've invested in.
So what year did Ventureloops come about?
So Ventureloop started in 2000. So I have officially been employed through Ventureloop for about 12 or 13 years now. So by far the longest job I've ever had, and in my estimation, probably the last job I'm going to have.
Great timing. 2000, right at the top of the dot bomb?
Exactly. Well, it was an interesting story. We had some significant success. There was a lot of interest. And, I should mention that, the initial genesis of the idea actually started as an online employee referral program that was going to leverage venture-backed companies to help them use their networks. So it was kind of the precursor in a way to LinkedIn. Didn't get to make the hundreds of millions or billions that LinkedIn made, but we approached one of our venture capital clients with the idea, and it morphed into what's now Ventureloop. There was a time, I readily admit, we kind of put things on autopilot when the recruiting part of the business was abysmal. There were still definitely companies hiring, but there were so many out-of-work recruiters, and the focus was definitely not there for a high-growth business. So I definitely had some struggling times as an entrepreneur, and now that I'm out of that, I'm not ashamed to admit I went into a fair amount of debt to keep the business alive. It's something you have to have an obsession in order to be successful, and I was obsessed to making it work, even when there was 1 year where I almost had zero income on my tax return and borrowed against credit cards in order to make ends meet. So I was single at the time, and it wasn't a problem having top ramen and water to go through your day, but it's been a fantastic journey, and something now you can look back on with pride that you were able to get through and get to a better place.
I often hear these individuals, entrepreneurs starting companies, the days that they went on the top of ramen and water, and it is a lot of hard work, isn't it?
It's significant work, and it's also it's a lonely proposition starting out as well. When you're a small company, I have a co-founder. But we have various times where my co-founder was more or less involved, depending on the timing and the economy and what was happening.
Was your co-founder actively engaged in the business from day to day, or was it on a side?
Starting
basis?
out, yes. And then when the economy tanked, there really wasn't enough money coming in. I mean, obviously, if I'm talking about almost $0 on my tax return for income, if I'm taking zero, he was married with kids on the way, so he took a full-time job, and it became a side project for him at that point in time. And so it meant he didn't have the time to commit to running things. And when you're servicing some pretty high-profile venture capital clients, you have to be engaged. You have to be involved. And it meant, majority of the decisions were entirely left up to me. And you don't have a CEO to go to or a boss or somebody to go to ask what you should do, or if you have a client that comes to you with an unreasonable request or unhappy about something, you can't deflect that onto somebody else. So, you carry a lot of weight during those times.
I'm visiting here today with Jeremy McCarthy. He's the co-founder of Ventureloop. It's a worldwide leader in job postings on venture-backed companies. Jeremy, we need to take a quick break.
Great.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein, Rogoff, Olsen Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein, Rogoff, Olsen Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olsen.
Welcome back. We're visiting here today with Jeremy McCarthy. He's the co-founder of Ventureloop, a worldwide leader in job postings focused on venture-backed companies. So, Jeremy, you have a great vantage point from where you sit, looking at all the venture company, not all, but the majority of venture companies in Silicon Valley, looking at portfolio companies, seeing who's hiring and who's not. And how many companies do you work with right now, or venture firms?
So we work with about 45 venture firms right now directly. So the way our service works is that we contract directly with them to host the career page on their website. So if you go to most of the major venture firms in the Bay Area and even globally and look at the careers or jobs section on their website, that's all hosted and run by us. We aggregate all those jobs back to the Ventureloop site and help cross-promote them to different areas to drive high-quality candidates to the companies that these venture firms invest in. So within that portfolio of venture firms, we're dealing with probably, I haven't looked at the homepage today. We tally up the totals on the homepage, but we've got, I think, over 1,100 active companies posting jobs and probably somewhere between 12 and 14,000 active jobs that are posted on the site right now. And it's a red-hot market if you are a technology person at the moment.
Interesting, because, with half of the venture money in the world, you pretty much can tell, if companies are being funded, there's a lot of optimism within the air. And so technology taught?
Yes, it's
software. What segment of the technology?
So we are seeing a lot in the software arena. There's a lot in web-based technology. Even some of the chip technology companies are doing well in the niche startup markets. Seeing the cloud-based technologies are doing very well. And then, with some of the news lately being negative in the industry on gaming, that's gotten a little bit of a bad rap, but we're seeing some unbelievable growth on some of the gaming companies as well. And this, as we were discussing before we came on the air, I was saying this is as hot a market, if not hotter, than during the dot-com era for technology people. It has not spread as broadly across all segments like marketing and admin and operations. But if you're a software developer or the engineering type of a background and interested in working in the venture-backed community, you can punch your own ticket. I mean, we speak to engineers because part of our service, we also do direct recruiting for the portfolio companies we're working with. And we speak to engineers who say they get contacted upwards of 20 times a day from headhunters who are aggressively coming after them to come work for these incredible companies that just sound too good to be true. And probably every week or two I run across a new company I hadn't heard of before who I find out is hiring 50-plus people over the next 6 months and is already profitable and is growing like crazy. and nobody's heard of them before. And that's the big difference between now and what was going on in the dot-com era, where everybody knew of all the companies. They were hiring like crazy, but they had no business model. They took in millions and millions of dollars, and they weren't generating the revenue. Whereas now, the lesson's been learned. You have also a much lower barrier to entry. With the open source web technologies and everything else, it doesn't take as much money to create a web-based technology company as it used to. And you can even outsource a significant amount of the infrastructure to other service providers at a very low cost. And so they're able to rapidly become a profitable company and have hiring needs and have to hire a lot of engineers to keep pace. And the only thing preventing them from becoming more successful is not being able to hire enough people quickly enough to scale.
It's interesting as the technology has advanced out there. The cost to get to market has obviously gone down a lot. But Jeremy, we're running up against the break here. I'd like to hold you over, and we talk more about what's happening in Silicon Valley today. I'm visiting here today with Jeremy McCarthy. He's a co-founder of Ventureloop, a worldwide leader in job postings focused on the venture-backed companies. We'll be right back after these messages.
Nothing's more important than spending time with your family.
At Greenstein, Rogoff, Olsen Company, we're trusted advisors to the highly successful. Our goal is to help you find the right strategy to protect your wealth for yourself and those you love.
Kids, why do I feel like I've just had an audit? As trusted advisors to the highly successful, we'll make sure that you don't lose your shirt.
Roco helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olsen.
Welcome back. We're visiting here today with Jeremy McCarthy, and he's the co-founder of Ventureloop, and it's a company that's focused on being a worldwide leader in job postings for the venture community. And, Jeremy, we were talking about, before as you started into this, you started out at Pricewaterhouse, and then you did a couple gigs and finally landed this idea of networking and connecting into the venture community. But along the way, what was your most memorable experiences and things that gave you the greatest challenges and successes?
Sure. So, being other than the lawn care business I started in high school, this was really my first true entrepreneurial challenge of my own to get something up and running. And even being a CPA and working directly with a lot of startups, there's just so much you don't know going into it. If I had started the business now as opposed to a dozen years ago, I think I would have had access to a lot more resources that were easier to utilize through networking and networking groups for entrepreneurs, et cetera, online searching and so forth. But it was very difficult to figure out all the resources you needed, how to establish things. One of the scariest and also greatest experiences I had is our first venture client. I won't mention by name, but they were an early investor in Cisco, and we had a direct contact with probably one of the most prolific venture investors in the world, who was very actively involved in kind of being a co-developer of the direction that our product was going to go in as it related to their firm. And we had access to this individual on a regular basis through phone calls and face-to-face meetings. And, it was just me and a co-founder, and we were not very notable in our own rights yet. And to sit down and have to interact with somebody that had such a reputation and had so much success was a little intimidating and scary, and at the same time, it's something you'll never forget. It just was such an incredible experience, and fortunately, we came out and in the end as a very successful venture with them. But it never changes. I mean, we even have started a new outsourced payroll benefits and HR practice, and in landing our first customer, we were talking with another small venture investor that's investing in early stage companies, and in order to win our first client, one of the things we did is they hadn't had payroll done for their founders in the 3 months since they've been founded, and they've been taking loans out from the founders of the venture investor. So we brought a portable printer out and took all of their payroll information and printed their payroll checks right there on site at the company to get them up and running. And, that's after we've been in business for a dozen years. It's still getting back to those basics of hands-on, high-touch customer service.
The CPA in you came out and says, we can't have this. Like, company with no books and records, we're going to make them.
Well, I guess fortunately for me, we've just been surprised to find that there's a lot of bad service out there. Service providers are really focused, especially on larger organizations, and even then the service that's provided is poor. And we've kept to a size that we can give very good customer support. And, it's what growing up, I was kind of taught is that's just the basics. That's what you need to be able to do just to survive. And we've just been surprised to find, even when we do what I think are the basics, we're viewed as the best service provider some of these organizations have dealt with. And so that's definitely something that makes you feel great about what you're doing and what you're building. And when you continue to get referrals from those clients on a regular basis, it really tells you that you've done the right things to make the business a success.
So, Jeremy, for the listeners out there, you have people that may be between jobs, but they may be also looking at you saying, Jeremy McCarthy, this guy is in the know of what's hot and what's not. What's your ideal client? I mean, how do you interact with people? I realize you got the connection to the venture firms, but for the layperson on the streets is saying, I want to get on the ground floor at the next Cisco or the next Facebook. Are you a good resource to help them understand what's hot, what's not?
Sure. So, the reality is, as somebody who has some inside knowledge on what these companies go through and what they're looking for, one thing I want to make sure people understand is just because a company is hot and growing like crazy doesn't mean that they will, change their views on the quality of talent that they hire, the type of person they're hiring. Part of the reason it's such a crazy labor market is because they're so selective in who they're hiring. And especially at an early stage company, they feel those are the most important people they're adding. So oftentimes we deal with clients who have some of the most unrealistic expectations you've ever heard. And it can be frustrating to somebody who's trying to get into a startup for the first time and is not having success. And just know, don't take it personally. It's not you. It's really that these companies have a very specific idea of what they want.
So can you coach a person? How would they go about preparing themselves?
Networking is your friend. Get involved with connecting with people on LinkedIn, and I would say come up with your own personal business plan and approach. Be specific on what you're targeting. Don't just generalize and saying, I'm looking for a software company or I'm looking for a networking company. Try and be very specific, and if you can network with people you know and are connected to within those industries, and be specific about, this is a company I'm interested in working in. Can you help introduce me to somebody there? Can you recommend how I should go about it? Then people will help. When you send out kind of generic messages of, I'm looking for a job in this area, it doesn't really resonate with most people. They don't know how to help a very general request of, I'm looking for a job. If you can do something to trigger them, I'm looking for a job in this company. I've been researching. I found this startup that just got funded. I see you're connected to somebody there. Can you give me some insight on how I might be able to get an introduction? That's the way you're going to get that first step.
So, Jeremy, how does a person go about contacting you?
So our website is a great place to start, but my email address is just jeremy@ventureloop.com. And I am definitely much more connected on the email front than the phone front right now. Just it's a much more efficient way for me to do business at the moment. And I always respond to people who are reaching out to me, even if I can't personally help them directly. I'm happy to see what I can do to steer them in the right direction.
Very good. I'm visiting here today with Jeremy McCarthy. He's a co-founder of Ventureloop, a worldwide leader in job posting focused on venture-backed companies. Jeremy, thank you for being on today's show.
Alan, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to American Dreams with Alan Olsen on AM 1220 KDOW.